Great, welcome back. It's now 5 minutes past 7 a.m. on this very cold day in the city. Welcome to the program. Today being a Wednesday is a viewpoint, and I want us to take a look at what's really in the country in 360 degrees. And I'll also be taking you through the front page of our local dailies, what you need to understand, so that you can go there and pick your favorite paper. My name is Victor Olo. Welcome to the program. You can talk to us at Victor Law at KBC Channel 1. Good Morning Kenya is the show. All right, my guests are in studio. Wakili Judge Kethi is an advocate of the High Court. Wakili, good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
Good to see you, my brother. Y'all?
I'm well.
Karibu sana.
How is your morning?
So far, so good.
Thank you.
Kimani Mwangi, who is a public policy analyst. He's also a political analyst. He's also on a set. Kimani, you're good, my brother?
I'm good, Victor.
Karibu.
Thank you for the invite.
It was a rainy night in the city.
Yeah.
That was unexpected. But it also boils down to the infrastructure that we have. I know there are so many photos going online, but this is something that we've been talking about, the infrastructure in the city, the drainage system, the road network, and what have you. Kura, the county government of Nairobi. What do you make of this, Kimani?
Poor drainage system as usual.
Yeah. Many people were stranded last night while going home.
You see, when you have a problem that keep coming and going,
yeah,
and we do nothing, then the problem is on us.
Yes.
Because it should be anticipated that in times of heavy rains, we'll have those drainage clogging, and we need to do this drainage in a better way once and for all. We need to have a way we shall solve this drainage problem once and for all.
Don't you think we don't have enough money to rectify that?
Not really. I think the corruption levels in this country and the money they keep telling us we lose on daily basis is more than what we need to redo these drainage systems completely. Plus, every road construction comes with a requirement that we must take care of the drainage. So it starts by telling us that we have had corrupt dealings before where people were given contracts to do roads and they did not bother to make sure that the drainage of those roads was well done in a way that when it rains, water will find way to where it's supposed to go. Yes.
Okay. And Wakili, this is the time now Kenyans are asking themselves whether we live in some memes going around that we should be having boats in the city on standby somewhere. But then it calls on restructuring of the city. The population has risen over the years.
Yeah.
And that also calls upon either redesigning the city or looking at a way on how to get it better. The city inspectorate, just to improve the infrastructure. This goes back to the county governor's desk.
Well, I think it's a question of how serious those that in power are in terms of public affairs. Yes, the county government, but you see, what happens is not like this thing is not legislated upon. You know, finance bill.
It's not news.
A finance bill is really a legislation process where probably the MCAs will sit down, members of parliament also sit down and debate on something. And ordinarily what the debate is something organic. It's something that lives with us. Now, when they allocate funds, for instance, on the drainage system, repair and maintenance and its development, of course, eventually it boils down to execution. So not like they don't know the problem of Nairobi, we all know. Not like we don't know how to fix it, we know. Because, I mean, there's all technical reasons why we have the technical abilities to do it. How to fix it, therefore, is the execution element, which we lack. Execution means fidelity to the cause as legislated in the finance bill, that this money is allocated for something, it must follow through, so that thing is done. And by the way, if we did what we say in terms of our debates, right from collection of information from wananchi and public participation all the way to the budget cycle until we legislate and follow through. Execution means where money has been allocated, we do as has been agreed at the debate and forum of legislation and planning, especially at the whatever respective houses of legislation we have, county and national. I think we'll be a very fantastic country because we know our problems. we allocate funds because we get taxed for it. And when it comes to execution, then there's a problem.
Yeah,
I mean, somebody somewhere,
the big issue.
Yeah, somebody somewhere, either the money is allocated to other projects, because you see, some projects don't make sense immediately. If you are told there'll be rain in 8 months, start now, it won't be an emergency. So what you need to do is probably donate food elsewhere on account of how optical it will be and the mileage you get out of it, because you need to see.
And I think we're just okay with the normal crimes.
The problem is
the rain will come, we'll complain.
The problem is not even the leadership, because the leadership would want to be optically relevant. It is us to say this has to be done where. And the other argument will be, of course, we've given you your job. Why don't you work? Because we gave you the job to work. But the oversight, there's no job that can be done without oversight. That's why we have even in private institutions supervisors. And the supervisors in this country are Kenyans themselves. In fact, the fact that Kenyans are robust in saying what they need to say online, in the media, and whatever it is exactly their role. I mean, they are supposed to oversight on government, officialdom, and these institutions. Suffice it to say, therefore, I think it's all collective. We tolerate it. I mean, it's going to be with us every day. I mean, by the time I tolerate you in my house, if you're not supposed to be in my house, but I tolerate you, I'll have you every day. If you have something wrong with you and you tolerate it every day, you're going to have it every day. So we're going to live with it until we don't want it, and it goes. For what we don't want, I know as Kenyans won't have it. Whether it is the finance bill, whoever it is. I mean, we've hounded people from offices, even through social media in this country. So if we don't need you, we don't need you. But if you tolerate it, then we will go through the pain. So we're going through the pain because I think as Kenyans, we also tolerate it.
We can do better. All right. So, gentlemen, let me take you a quick look on the front page of a local daily. Starting with the Star newspaper. On the front page, Ruto, Riggy was Mount Kenya party quits Kenya Kwanza. Ruto Riggy was Mount Kenya party quits Kenya Kwanza. That is KK. Farmers Party accuses president of dishonesty. Farmers Party accuses president of dishonesty. That is on the splash of the Star newspaper. You can take a look at that story again on the front page. It's not something to smile about. A family of 6 who perished in a road accident a week or so ago, coming from a memorial service somewhere in Naivasha on their way back to Nairobi, were buried. It's a sad situation, but just to give it some context, a mother lost 3 sons and a husband. So that's how painful it can be. So when it's reported, I think it deserves a front page. Let's be careful on the road. Let's be careful on the road. I knew she would return home. That's the mother of a slain student who was found in a septic tank or in a water tank in one of the universities around Nairobi. The police still investigating the case. All right, on the front page of the Standard, State House rogues. That is what's on the front page, State House rogues. The 2 gentlemen here, we have got Dennis Itumbi, and this is the president's personal PA, Farouk Kibet. These are the 2 gentlemen on the front page of the Standard newspaper today. Let me give you a quick read. It says that President William Ruto clings to them like a leech, or perhaps it's the other way around. Farouk Kibet, he's a elusive personal aide, and Dennis Itumbi, the cunning self-styled digital spin doctor, have become inseparable from the president, orbiting his every move with an air of entitlement that rivals co-rulers. Their presence unnerves those around the presidency. Critics dismiss them as mere errand boys, meddling busybodies, or backroom schemers. In a blistering critic, former DP Rigathi Gachagua goes further, suggesting that they are not just aides, but something more sinister, masterminds of self-serving schemes veiled by the authority of the state. That is on the front page, all right? How murdered drug baron built empire, still on the front page, and bad loans hit a record 700 billion shillings. That's according to the CBK, which now is facing a growing policy dilemma as a surge in bad loans across the key sectors threaten to undermine the efforts of the government to stabilize the economy. Puzzle of 6 names added to IBC shortlist. That is what is here On the Daily Nation, puzzle of 6 names added to IEBC shortlist. They applied for jobs, 1 shortlisted, but were invited for interviews. Okay. Who are they? Number 1, this is a controversial list. 1 is Hassan Nur Hassan. He left. He's a former Chief Administrative Secretary, CAS, and a long-serving provincial administrator. We also have Jibril Mali Mohammed, Michael Ben Oliewo, Michael Charles Kipyegon Mutai, Stephen Kibet Ngeno, and finally Joel Muita Daniel. These are the 6 names which are now becoming a bit of an issue with the IEBC. IEBC selection panel introduced 6 extra names to the final list of candidates just days to the start of the interviews for the vacant positions of the electoral agency's chairperson and members, raising eyebrows and questions as to the integrity of the ongoing recruitment. Wakili, let me come back to you again. Legally speaking, this should not be happening because they didn't apply. So how?
No, it didn't. It shouldn't happen.
Yeah.
But I do understand. I mean, if you have applied for these jobs, you would know what happens there. Ordinarily, in such high-octane jobs, there are many interests that get served or are intended to be served. IBC is a tool of trade in politics. As we've seen before experience, it's a tool of trade because whoever controls it is assured of control of part or probably substantially the traffic system of election and predisposed to probably manipulation of that system. Now, you need to get people or good men and women in the context of your interests. That'll be good and the bad. Those that you can't manipulate then will be bad.
Yeah.
Those that you can manipulate then be good in the context of whoever his interests are served. But then there is the micro, the very dark area that we're not predisposed to as the nation, because our interest is a good, credible, accountable process that yields into the leadership that we propose through the opinions exercised through our ballots in the voting system. But then, ordinarily, we don't get the leaders we want because the prefixing of election, it takes a process. One of it is at the appointment through these recruitments. When a person has not presented his papers within the timeline stated, because there's a cutoff, then there'll be qualification that's also part of the cutoff.
Yeah.
If you don't, you're already out. You're either in or out because there is a prescription that has been put into place. Once you put in your papers, it is supposed to be a public process. That's why the names are published. If the names are published, but some have been left out, either because of sheer negligence or recklessness of the office, or whoever ought to publish, you need to do a correction of the same. So that then you inform through the publication that now the full list is this list because some 6 names or 7 names were left. The variance of that is that those that you did not put in the list then did not make it. You see, 10,000 people could apply, but you can shortlist 7, you can shortlist 25. The discretion is yours. Once you exercise that discretion, then you don't alter the discretion because then you have already published that decision. Once you've communicated that through the publication as was done, and you've left out certain people, you do not go back to do the correction on your own because it is not your process. It is a public process. Then once you bring now other people into the process and interview them or intend to interview them, you adulterate the entire process. You see, the process then needs to be nullified in total. In fact, you do not say, we have interviewed 10 people, 2 people were added, and therefore the other 2 ought not to be the process. The whole process becomes adulterated, and therefore you need to cancel the entire process. Now, there could be a reason for this. Either these people who were included were supposed to eventually meet certain agreements with the pre-agreements that will be there when they meet the fold. The other one is because you want to delay the process, adulterate it so that there's a reason to cancel it and then start afresh, because then you need to delay it for whatever sinister motive that you have. Whichever way, it is wrong, because then it's, as we speak, if this is true, it holds that the wrong has been committed. The process can't, in fact, proceed. It can't be that we remove those that have been added because others were already there. It is that the entire process is adulterated. But put it the other way also. We, as Kenyans, would look at the list and look at the names. When we look at the names, we'll go further and look at who these people are.
Yes.
We'll even look at the ethnicity of those names. When we get there, therefore, it becomes even more suspicious. Remember, the integrity of the process is not the ballot that I cast. It is the entire process, including the fact that those men and women who were put there to take care of my vote and cumulatively all the votes until I get a leader, the process is sanctified through what I have prescribed through Parliament and the Constitution as the law that will guide me. Remember, it needs we don't just need an election and a result. We need a credible election and a result that has been seen to be, that has been felt to be, and has been experienced to be.
But when you look at this, Wakili, I'll come back to that shortly. But Kimani, this basically is going to invalidate the entire shortlist. I mean, the entire process, because again, just to pick from what Wakili has said, it's going to be questionable from the beginning until the last vote is counted, probably in 2027, because many people will ask questions. This was not supposed to be here. It's the entire process.
Firstly, if I'm right, is that we had over 1,000 people who applied. The selecting panel shortlisted 105, but then they added another 6. So these 6 had already applied for the jobs, only that they were not listed in the first shortlist. So in their dedunum that was added to the list, they added the 6 names, days to the interviews beginning. While it might, Keith is the lawyer, the implication is well, but then it is also good to note that they had applied. They were not in the first shortlist. There was an addition to the shortlist that brought the list to 111 from 105. But what is important is that this process is an emotive process, because people look at this panel and expect that the panel will give the people who will arbitrate in our electioneering process as a nation. We know how emotive, again, our electioneering process is as a nation. So while what concerns me most is the opaque nature through which they added the 6 names, the lack of explanation why this was done, because you can't just tell us that you looked into the big list and found that you needed to add a few names. It appears from the common man's eye that maybe there is a big boy who called and said, add these names.
Or a big girl.
Or a big girl, for that matter. Now, if that happens, then the question is, how can we trust the entire process that it is not being managed? Because we say that politics is perception. So how we perceive it matters a lot. We must be convinced beyond a reasonable doubts that whatever is being done for the greater good of the nation, and not to serve the interest of an individual. So the process matters more than even the outcome of that process. If you give us a list of individuals we are convinced aren't there to serve our interests, then we have no trust in the entire process. And you know what that means come 2027, on August 10, when we go for elections, with a commission we do not trust, or a commission that, because politicians will always be there to tell us that these people are picked to serve somebody's interest, and then it happens that things happen that, like they always do, and then we don't trust what happened in those closed doors. So the danger with what they are doing, whether well-intentioned or not, is to erode the trust of the people in the process.
Yeah, yeah.
And they know that this process should be watertight. We should be convinced from the inception to the end that everything that the selecting panel is doing for the nation, not for individuals or for parties. But now when they start doing this, it is a dangerous thing that whose outcome should be anticipated by the panel itself. And it is something that should be very well explained. Now the danger again is anybody can go to court to challenge the process. Remember, we are already over 2 years late in this process.
Yeah.
Because the law demands that once an office falls vacant, within 14 days we should start the process to fill that office. This office fell vacant in 2023, January. We are in 2025, May. 2 years, 4 months late. We are supposed to have done the elimination, which we haven't done. We are supposed to have been updating our records. There were those institutional reforms that we should have done. We are so much behind that there shouldn't be some monkey businesses with the selecting panel, because if anybody goes to court and happens to delay this process further, it is going to hurt us like you can't even believe it.
Okay.
Because IBC must be fully in office at least 2 years, Bonawakili, at least 2 years in office before elections come.
Yeah.
Think about it. We are in 2025. Almost 2 years to elections, and we still are selecting the commissioners, and somebody is still playing monkey business of adding names to an already complete list. It's very dangerous.
I mean, when you look at that, again, Wakili, how would that be when someone goes to court? Does it invalidate the entire list or the entire process,
you see,
or just the 6 who are
you see, there's something we call good faith in law. Good faith is an issue of fact that ought to be demonstrated. If you sit as a panel and shortlist people, out of 100, you take 10. You then publish that to those that were in competition, meaning the other 90 have been left out. And the public settles at the list of 10 for purposes onward interviews. And that gets settled at that point, no problem. And there's no bad faith. Now, when you select 5 more out of the remainder of the 19, out of the 100, and you bring them to the fold, what will you justify as the good reason, the good faith, for having them left them out, got another 5, and then left the other 85, and do they qualify? Because then what you would say is either you interview everyone who has applied and qualified on account of the basics that are required, or if then you shortlist people, you shortlist those that are foremost, you've decided. But you do not make a decision that this is the list we want. Go back and fish others and bring them. Go back and fish, because then it can be done as multiple times as possible. That is the demonstration of bad faith. Bad faith is something then that is not within the norm. And the norm has been that what you publish is what you interview. But if you continue to republishing, it gives the notion that you are bringing to the fold convenience, and that you've left out certain convenience and you're bringing back to the fold on account of certain things that were not addressed at the time. If you do not address the issues, the quality at the time, then cancel everything and say we don't have the quality, and therefore bring more advertisements. In fact, at times you cancel everything or you interview, but if you've not found a correct person, you say those that have already applied need not apply, but we are advertising again.
Okay.
Remember, there are people who are more qualified than the list that was there that did not apply. They won't get a chance because they did not meet the timelines within which, the bracket within which they ought to have made the application. Even those probably would have been given a chance for the extension, because it means, what is it you're addressing? There must be a gap that you're addressing when you're adding other people. Is it that there's a minimum number of people that you ought to interview? If it is not true, then there's no good reason. And that's what you're saying. By addition of other people is bad faith and therefore adulterates the entire cocktail of the people that are being interviewed, because the involvement of foreign elements from the first edition of publishment, that in itself is bad faith. Yeah. And in effect, therefore, as we say, procedure is the handmaiden of substance. The substance will be as good as the procedure that was followed. If the procedure is adulterated, even the outcome in itself becomes illegal.
Let's take a break. We'll come back with more. Stay with us.